Never forgotten a bizarre experience that happened during a moonlit walk more than 20 years ago. First, time suddenly slipped away in the blink of an eye. Then there were 3 bright orange lights in the sky. Was it a trick? A hallucination? Well, the questions went unanswered until Karen saw a recent sightings report on alien abduction, and something about the story struck a resonant chord. Memories of that moonlit night in 1975 were incomplete, but strangely compelling. An engaged couple on a family vacation steal away for a quiet drive through the north woods of Wisconsin. There's something strange about that ride that they can't figure out yet. Back at the cabin, the couple stroll down to the lake. The night is clear, there's a bright star, but then it moves, and they realize this is no star.
There was one star-like object. It was a little bit brighter than a star, kind of an orangey color that seemed to stand out from the others a bit. Just really didn't think anything of it at the time, but my focus kept going back and forth to that particular object. And after a while, I noticed some odd things about it.
This bright orange star that was along the horizon of the trees on the other side of the lake zipped right to the top of our heads, and we looked up.
The stargazing couple were Karen Klinger and Dennis Murawska, and what they saw would haunt them for more than 20 years.
I think the best way I could describe the flight is like that of a dragonfly. It was just, it would zip here, stop, zip here, stop, zip, 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 zip really fast. And I'm like, what are we watching? You know, I was fascinated by it. I didn't want to stop looking at it. I was just glued to it. And we finally started calling my folks down from the cabin so they could watch. And my mother was a little scared.
The whole family got down to the lake in time to see the single light split into 3, then rejoin as one. It was a fascinating spectacle that drove one family member to try something illogical.
Denny's sister's boyfriend went into the house and got a large beam flashlight and flashed at the UFOs 3 times. Suddenly, they just completely disappeared. And about maybe a couple of seconds later, they flashed back at us the same amount of times as we had flashed at it.
After a few minutes of this strange communication, everyone reached the same impossible conclusion.
By this time, we knew we were watching something that we had no explanation for. It was really strange and definitely appeared to be intelligently controlled.
The bizarre communication went on for half an hour. Then, in less than the blink of an eye, the UFO was gone. The encounter had a profound effect, but Karen and Dennis wouldn't know just how profound for another 2 decades. By then, they had married, had a son, and an acrimonious divorce. In fact, in 1994, they were barely speaking when Dennis and Karen met to exchange custody of their son.
Well, this particular evening, he got out of the car probably for the first time that he'd talked to me face-to-face in a year. And he knocks on the window of the car. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth was, "Have you ever considered hypnosis?" And I said to him, I said, "You saw that program."
The program was Sightings, and our report on the abduction experience of 4 men camping in the Allagash wilderness of northern Maine. They too had seen a UFO in the sky. Like Karen and Dennis, they had used a flashlight to signal the spacecraft, and most importantly of all, the Allagash 4 had missing time. A roaring fire they had left just minutes before was now nearly out. Karen and Dennis, divorced and barely speaking, watched the report in different homes, but had the same revelation at the same moment. They too had had missing time.
Both Karen and I remembered the night of this incident that as we were driving around the lake, which is exactly a 4-mile radius, doesn't take very long to cover it all, that at one point we looked up and the moon was directly in line with the rearview mirror of the car. And by the time we got back to the lake, which shouldn't have been very long, the moon was setting.
It never occurred to me until that moment that there could possibly be some missing time involved. I felt sick. I literally felt nauseated at the thought of it.
But what happened during that missing time? Dennis asked Karen if she would consider hypnotherapy as a way to find the answer.
I think that the nature of a repressed memory is that there is no conscious access to this memory. It's not something that somebody remembers once or occasionally and then sticks back in a locked vault someplace in their mind.
Dr. David Clayton agreed to hypnotize Karen. He had no faith in the abduction experience, but as he worked with Karen, he realized that she was not unlike other patients who he'd seen relive past trauma under hypnosis.
Karen was recalling a very intense white light that approached the vehicle that she and her former husband were in at the time. And when this white light approached the side of the vehicle, it was so intense, I think Karen, at that point, felt that she had fainted.
Under Dr. Clayton's watchful eye, Karen revealed traumatic contact with extraterrestrial beings, something Dennis couldn't or wouldn't recall. But their descriptions of the craft were nearly identical.
We compared notes later. They corroborated very closely with some of the points that Karen had brought up under hers. We both got these images of a grid-like pattern, almost a primitive type structure, almost like a dirigible or something.
Independently, Karen and Dennis insisted that the purpose of the abduction was not to hurt them, but to help all humankind. They each felt compelled to deliver the same message. The fate of Earth is intertwined with alien worlds throughout the cosmos, and Earthlings are not doing a good job of taking care of our part of the universe. It's a message that abduction support group leader Mary Kerfoot hears a lot.
As far as the phenomenon in general, some people's experiences can truly be described as abductions. They are taken kicking and screaming, struggling against their will. Others evolve over time as they understand what is happening to come very cooperatively and become associated with the beings that they're working with in a participatory role.
The Chicago Center for Encounters support group was formed in 1993, so abductees and experiencers would know that they are not alone.
It's enormously exciting for the members of our support group to compare experiences, because as soon as you find someone who has some aspect that is similar or exactly like yours, you feel much more validated.
At first, abductees were pariahs, oddballs, inventing a new mythology. But after 3 decades, the phenomenon is not going away because, abductees insist, alien contact is a reality.
If you feel that this has happened to you, by all means, do whatever it takes to uncover the information, because it's worth the risk.
Just as she was reassured after watching our Allagash abduction report, Karen Klinger hopes that her personal story will encourage more people to come forward, or at least to seek help from a certified professional hypnotherapist, or from one of the hundreds of support groups forming around the world.